disposition, this one. Now that is full of bees.
Teeming. They all ran straight to the top too.
Yeah. Yeah, this hive is the more temperamental of all the hives. If I'm going to look at requeening a hive, it's this one. Hi, I'm Peter Cowan, the Bee Whisperer. We are back at the Good Shepherd Food Bank yard, which I was here only 4 or 5 days ago putting honey supers on, just before we had this heat wave here in Maine, where it's been in the 90s or 30s centigrade, and normally that is really good for clover honeyflow. The other yards were in Monroe yesterday, and we had a lot of bearding activity. And although the humidity is still pretty high, and we know the population of bees in these hives is very good indeed, I don't have bearding. What we do have is activity of the bees on one side, doing more by way of, well, actually, there's more, what's going on here is more washboarding, but we've also got some fanning going on here. But bees grouped at one side of the hive, creating an air current. And when you see that, we've probably got a lot of nectar being cured. Bees at one side of the entrance, fanning away. Yeah, not too much washboarding, it's fanning of the hives. A little bit of what you might call bearding on this hive here. So good population of bees in that one. Plenty of fanning going on. Plenty of honey curing. So this is a good sign. Now we have to open up the hive and see if that's actually what we're finding. So let's start. You want to go around, Cameron, with the smoker at every entrance? As Cameron's here, we want to get the smoker on. He's just going to stir them up. Now, nothing going on in this hive, although this one was one of the borderline ones as to whether it would get a super or not. Stronger colony. There's bees in here working. See some white comb. So let's just have a quick look and see what was happening underneath here. So these bees have been very busy on this this super. See what the weight feels like. Bearing in mind that this hive has only had a super on for about 4 days, and the super's got maybe 15 pounds of honey, and look at the super that was down below it. That is continuing to fill up very nicely. Nice load of white comb. Very good. Every other frame here is just foundation. And they're building out the foundation quite nicely. So there's some good work going on here. When the bees have to build out foundation, of course, they're using 7 pounds of honey to make 1 pound of wax. So now that they're working on those combs, and we've got a start of the comb and everywhere, I'm spacing these combs out now, so that they draw each one nice and fat. I don't think it needs another super, but there's still plenty of space in there. If you don't mind closing that up, Cameron. So they're working on it. Putting some honey away. These are already spaced out nicely. A little less honey in this super. But they're accumulating honey nicely below it. So we've continued to have a honey flow here this week. But I don't think it's been anything. It wasn't an extraordinary honey flow like I was kind of hoping it would turn into with the heat. Now, the problem that we're facing shortly though is that the weather forecast is now going from being in the 90s to being in the 60s, and for that matter the low 60s. And I've seen honey flows come to a shuddering halt in June before. Now we're the 1st of July, but I've seen the honey flow come to a shuddering halt when the temperatures got down for a few days down to the high 50s. Now we're going to get down to about 61 for 2 or 3 days, and that might be just enough to stop whatever honey flow is on and stop it altogether. And if it does, that will be pretty much the end of the honey flow until the end of the summer dearth, but we'll see. So I'm not going to over super hives in anticipation of a continued honey flow, because I think that the honey flow will come to an end pretty soon. You really have to be Johnny on the spot to be there ready with the honey flow to take advantage of it at the time, and then not miss out the opportunity. Very often I miss out the opportunity because I'm splitting my hive so much that there's not a lot of I don't have a big hive by the time when the honey flow comes. These hives have taken advantage of it so far. I would say it looks like if these hives have an average of 1 deep super full and 1 honey super full when we harvest in the July sometime, that's going to be 70 to 90 pounds of honey that we take off. So they're building, they're working on this. Hopefully by the end of the honey flow they will have drawn this comb, but I don't expect to get much honey from this particular super. I think everything's going to come to a halt before they've really filled it up. Well, we'll see. But if I get something like 70 to 90 pounds per hive from here, that's going to be very nice indeed. Yeah, they're working on it, but they're not filling it. So, Cameron's with me today. Look at him, bee free.
Crazy.
The bees are happy. There's
Maybe
1 or
the
2
smoker?
bees following him.
Maybe
So
my cologne.
Sorry?
I said maybe the smoker, maybe my cologne.
Maybe. So if you can just follow us, you can do some close-ups as we have a look inside some of the hives.
All right.
Is there anything you want to particularly you think is worth looking at? See, there's next to nothing going on up here. The activity was certainly more substantial below it.
Oh wow.
Got plenty of honey developing here. You get much closer to that. So we've got plenty of honey getting stored in here. next to nothing in the super above it. So the bees will have consolidated. I mean, although I put a super on here, just because there's not much in here doesn't mean that there's been no flow of nectar. They've been continuing to fill this one, and probably putting a little bit in the brood chamber down here. But generally speaking, the honey will be put in here, and any surplus is going to go in there. Come around. It's a smaller one. These ones that were a little behind the others might need a super, but no. Population's only just getting up to enough here. Move a little closer, Cameron, because I've noticed the camera hasn't been picking up my voice very well. Still need to get one of those attached microphones, but I need a phone that'll take an attachment like that. So they're working on it, they're building. There's not a lot being stored in this. Well, let me see. I'm saying that without actually looking at it. I don't see much white, but having said that, there's 1.5 pounds of honey in this frame. Now if you multiply that by, let's say, 8 out of those 10, we've got 10 to 15 pounds of honey in here. So we're still growing 4 days. That's not bad, considering that a lot of it's going in the supers below. Some of the hives with bigger populations, maybe like this one, could conceivably do more, but now we can see that there's very few bees in some of these. They're not even working on the foundation on some of them. They're working on the frames with foundation, with comb, but they're not drawing the foundation in these. They were busy in other parts of the hive. There's a good 15 pounds of honey in here. Let's look at those supers down below. Look at all that white. All this is capped honey. Right along. Even drawn out comb right to the edge. So they're working hard. We could probably put another super on this hive, Cameron. So
okay.
You put a shallow on that one, or mediums, or whatever we've got. These were hives were just, this smaller one who just weren't quite ready to take a super last week. Now they've reached a point where we can put one in. Looks like the same with this one. Let's do the same with this one, please. Now they're working on it, they're drawing the comb. About 10 pounds of honey in there. Full of bees, but not quite full of honey. And the bees are at the camera again.
Not camera. The camera.
hives. This one seems like the least good disposition. This one. Now that is full of bees.
Teeming. They all ran straight to the top too.
Yeah. This hive is the more temperamental of all the hives. If I'm going to look at requeening a hive, it's this one. Bees are of a very poor disposition. This one is the first example of where I show requeening a hive because it's not very happy. Camera is also putting camera in harm's way here. This hive has always been a little bit worse disposition than the others. These are Italians. It's the only yard I've got where I keep Italians right now this year. There are plenty of bees here, but this isn't as full of honey as it looked like it could have been. The bees were just defensive. There's about 5 to 10 pounds of honey in here, plenty down below it. The same as all the other hives, were just acting meaner. If this hive continues with this sort of behavior, when I take the honey supers off, I might go down there and requeen this hive, because I don't like to work with bees that act like that. Smoke has calmed them right down though, that was good. It's one thing when the hive reacts to smoke, it's another thing if a hive will not calm down when you smoke them, it's time to requeen them. These bees calmed right down with a bit of smoke, so that was pretty good. But I've got used to dealing with my Saskatraz, and my Saskatraz bees are really sweet and lovely. Well, unless you're Cameron.
No love for me.
No love for Cameron. Speaking of which, he's got his, now has his little cloud of bees. And of course no one's going to be able to hear me because all the bees are on the camera right now. Should leave that hive to last to work with. So I think these hives will be fine until the end of the honeyflow here, which might be soon, might be another couple of weeks, you never know. Might just trickle on for a little while with different flowers. And clover is one thing, sweet clover is another potential source. Plenty of activity here, but I can see they're not really drawing much of the foundation. So, can you just grab the smoker there please, Cameron? So, the honey flow is still on, but I'm pretty sure slowing down. This area is probably better than some of the other yards, but it's coming along. I think in a couple of weeks we'll be taking the honey off these supers, so making reasonable progress. So as a reminder, if you're watching this video this weekend in the colder weather, that could put an end to a honey flow right there and then. There's sweet clover out there and that may keep going for a while, depending on if the towns don't chop it down or not. I hate it when the towns chop down the sweet clover. Anyway, I've got a bee in my boot at the moment, so I'm going to take it out, and I'm finished here for the day. I'm Peter Cowan, the Bee Whisperer. See you next time. As we didn't use all my honey supers at the Good Shepherd Food Bank, we've still got a truck full of them. Thought we'd come over to the other Hamden yard and get those checked to see how these work, because I had to get to here before I leave for the weekend as well, just to make sure that they have plenty of space, and these have come along nicely. These are not as advanced as the ones at Good Shepherd Food Bank, of course. They're all down to a single brood chamber, and they had a shallow super put on, and that is 2/3 of the way built out. So 2/3 of the way is time for another honey super. So why don't we put that one on, Cameron?
Sure.
See, most of them have 1, 2, 3, 4 frames with honey in them. On the others, still plenty of room to expand. Not much going on in some of them. As these hives were split right down, I boosted them a little bit with some frames of brood. Last time I was here, a few weeks ago, 2 weeks ago. This one's ready for another super. I didn't equalize all the strength perfectly, but this one's coming along really nicely. There's 8 to 9 frames in there, built up nicely. Just a second, just before you do camera, I'll show. Look at that nice white comb in there. Nice big fat combs. That's why we space it only 9 frames in here, because when it comes to cutting cutting the cappings off the honeycombs, they're nice fat combs. Okay, let's put that super on, please.
I'll just take it, they're leaving me alone.
Yeah, let's put the super on this one. It's not all that white, but it's plenty of bees, so it gives them the scope.
That's good.
Last but not least, they're coming along. They're filling up these 3 on this one. Just not quite ready for more room. Okay, and that's all there is to it. Just a quick run through. We wanted how many? 2, 3 supers. So the honeyflow has been on to varying degrees. This yard's pretty small, so it's not really taking a huge advantage of it. I hope I can get the honey super off most of these hives, an average of 1 come the end of July. But I'll harvest those, and hopefully we'll have a fall honey flow here. There's plenty of goldenrod in this area, so if we have the right weather, we might get a fall goldenrod aster flow. So we're growing the hives on. We might get a super of honey for July and prepare them for better things to come in the fall. I'm Peter Cowan, the Bee Whisperer. See you next time.